Well, good morning. And it's a beautiful day in Dorset this morning. It is like a spring morning, and we're still in February. So finally, there's a break in the rain and the wet weather, and we're getting some spring sunshine. So I'm making the most of it. But it's a walk with a difference. A shorter walk, not my usual type. But I haven't filmed the first leg of the walk from the car to this point. It's kind of not very interesting, so I didn't film it. It's very busy, but apart from this part, which I did film. So this is a place I always like to come. It is a little graffiti artist's heaven, I think. And there's always some interesting artwork here, which I like to look and see what's been done here. Very cool, I think. It is actually a skate park. Well, I call it a skate park. I think people come here on scooters and bikes and things, anything really, but I describe it as a skate park, with lots of graffiti under the arch. I'm sorry about the traffic noise. There is unfortunately a busy road not far away from here, right next to me in fact. So I'm not sure how these things work. Whether there's some unwritten law that these things stay in place for so long. Never having been a graffiti artist myself, I don't know. I kind of assume that it's not the done thing to come along and paint over somebody else's artwork, so it must presumably sit here for a while until it can be painted over by somebody else. But I'm not sure how that works. Must be some kind of unwritten code. Anyway, I really enjoy looking at the artwork. There's some very talented young people out there, I think. And it certainly brightens up an underpass. So yes, today's walk is different. It's a bit more towny than I normally film, but I thought it'd be good to come here. It gives us another view of Poole Harbour. So we're doing a loop now round Poole Harbour and then inland across heathland before heading back to the car. So slightly different, but hopefully it will be a fantastic walk. It's an absolutely brilliant place to walk anyway, especially in this kind of wet season that we have, as you will see in a minute. But we are starting on the shores of Holes Bay, which is over my shoulder. But it's not the only thing that's different today. There is something else that's different. Two things, I would say, that are different about this film from my previous films. I'm not going to tell you what they are at the moment. It's a little challenge to see if you can spot any difference between this film and previous ones. I will tell you at the end what the difference is and see if you guessed right. Anyway, let's crack on. Promises to be a great day. I hope you're going to join me. We will see some interesting things and more history of Dorset as we walk. So I'll tell you more as we get going. So this is Holes Bay, and I apologise for the traffic noise. There is a road immediately behind me. Holes Bay is a large part of Poole Harbour. It is a shallow tidal bay, a very sheltered habitat for migratory and overwintering birds. It was actually cut in two by this railway causeway that was built in 1893. And that causeway carries the railway, mainline railway, which runs from Poole down to Weymouth, Dorchester and then Weymouth. Before that, I think the railway had a bit of a detour inland to get round Holes Bay, which is on my left. But this is an absolutely beautiful place to come and walk. You have to ignore the traffic, admitted. But it's a haven for wildlife, as we'll see in a minute as we go further around. We will actually get away from the traffic in a minute. It's not this bad all the way. It's just this part. Water doesn't look terribly clean there, does it? It's not an oil slick, I don't think. I think it's probably mud or something washed into the water. But you can probably see from the path in front of me why this is a good walk to do in the winter. Because there's no mud here. Well, not at the moment. There will be later in the walk. But hey, that's fine. And unfortunately, the tide is in today. If the tide were out, there would be loads of waders in here. I don't know if there's... might see some further round, I don't know. But usually there's lots of waders here, including the avocet. So it's a really major wildlife place. Very shallow, but then of course the whole of Poole Harbour is shallow. It's only, less than 2 feet deep, I think, on average. You have the deep water channels to enable the large boats to come to Poole Quay, but overall it's only about, I think, is it 18 inches to 2 feet deep? So in theory you could probably walk across that. You wouldn't want to. Try to disappear into the mud, I think. So across the other side of the bay, over where the trees are over here, is a little island. It's one of many islands in Poole Harbour. This one's Perkins Island, also known as Doughty Island, or Dowdy, I think it's pronounced, Dowdy Island. We'll hear about that later, where it's got that name. But it's known as Perkins Island. It is not accessible to the public now. It's left as a wildlife sanctuary. But at one time it said that it was accessible. The owners allowed the public to use it, and it was really aimed, back in the 1800s, aimed at poor people who lived in the slums of Poole, who could come across here and escape the squalor that their slums would have been in the hot summer days. So that was at one time given to them as an escape. You need a boat to get over there, you can't walk over there. But now it's left for wildlife. So there's a little egret out there. A little bit of mud flat here, but not a lot. Perkins Island obviously over there. I don't know if you'll be able to see the little egret. I have only got the one camera today. I haven't brought my long lens with me. So we get a nice little wooded section here, and we're gradually moving away from the traffic, so hopefully it will become quieter very soon. That's an interesting bit of tree. Part of it's dead, part of it's still alive. Beautiful dappled light coming through these trees. It really does make a lovely spring light morning. Still not a lot of waders here. That's Perkins Island over there. Round this side is where we were just now. So we are now entering the grounds of Upton House. Was one of our Poole's manor houses, now known as Upton Country Park. And I will tell you more about the history of this place in a little while. Now, the tide is still too far out by the looks. So this is now a publicly accessible country park owned by the Borough of Poole. So this is public open space and nature reserve with usual amenities like tea rooms and that kind of thing. And in the distance on the right, we got the first glimpse of Upton House, which was the manor house, originally private ownership, of course. And I'll give you the history in a minute. One thing there is here is a hide. So that you can sit and watch waders. They are conspicuous by their absence at the moment. I can see them across the other side there on the edge of the water, but too far away for this camera to pick up. There is a lot of them over here. But this is one of the places I came when I was kind of cutting my teeth, if you like, in kind of bird photography. When I first got a long lens, I used to come here, and I still do. I mean, I still come here with the long lens and get waders this way. But equally, if you want ordinary birds, is that an expression? Ordinary birds, then you can get plenty of those here as well. And very often, and I've done it myself, we would bring seed and put them on the posts here. And the littlies, oh, there's one up there, look, one up in the tree up here. He obviously thinks I'm about to put seed down for him. Sorry, I haven't brought any seed today. But they're obviously very used to people coming here and doing that, photographers and so on. So the birds are, you say tame, I suppose that's the truth. The birds are quite tame, used to humans. So it does make life a lot easier when you don't know much about bird photography and you're only just learning. And the borough have created a lot of footpaths. All of this is Upton Country Park ground, so you can walk for quite a long way in that direction. I'm not going that way, but it continues round Holes Bay, comes out at Hamworthy. I should do that one day actually and film that. from Hamworthy you can walk along the other side of Holes Bay into Poole Centre itself. So maybe I'll do that one day and film that, but I'm not going to do it today. But that's all part of Upton Country Park. I'm going to actually head up into the main part where the tea rooms is, and I might, it being a very civilised walk today, get myself a cappuccino or something. And of course, one of the things I haven't been doing enough of is drinking water. It's because it's in my rucksack. So, and it's, of course, now the spring is coming and it's getting warm. I do need to make sure I drink more water. You can get away with it in the winter, but it's actually very hot. In fact, I'm dressed lightly, but I actually feel overdressed at the moment. So this is usually quite a nice place to get a cup of coffee, but it's a kiosk, but it's not open at the moment. So I'll have to go in the main cafe and hope that's open. And it does normally have some very nice flower borders down here, but not at this time of the year, of course. But what it does have is a walled garden. And this doubles as a performance space. I've been here to Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra concerts. I remember that day so clearly. And they did the 1812 overture. And then when the cannons went off, it was, well, it made the ground shake. It was an amazing evening. But we also come here for the outdoor films as well. We have outdoor films here every summer. Frontiers Sapiens, is it? Yeah, Frontier Sapiens, I think. There's an amazing fountain in the middle here when it's running, but not this time of the year. And on the left is the tea rooms, which is where I'm heading. Wow, cheers. This is a bit decadent, isn't it? Buying cappuccino and a hot sausage roll when I'm out walking. Normally I'm on a muddy hillside with a sandwich or something. It's good. So if you watched my previous video, you will know that I'm going to do a questions and answers session. I thought I'd do a video on things that you might want to know. So first of all, thanks so much for those of you who have put questions up already. I've got quite a few to put into the mix, so I'll do a session to answer all of those. But if you haven't seen that video, then if you've got any questions you want to ask me, whether it's about me, my background, about walking, backpacking, equipment, that kind of thing, anything, then put them in the comments below. And yeah, at some point I'm going to do a questions and answers session, and I will talk through all of those things and give you the answers that you want, hopefully. I'll do my best. So yes, if you got any thoughts or questions, put them in the comments below. So this is Upton House, which sits in the centre of Upton Country Park. It's a late Georgian house, built 1816 to 1818 on the Upton estate, which was owned by the Earl of Huntingdon in 1592. This house was built by the Spurrier family. It has a long and convoluted history, so I'm not going to run through the whole history of this house, but it was part of a famous Victorian legal case. The estate at one point passed into the hands of the Tichborne family, who are based, the main family seat is at Alresford. It was Edward Tichborne who inherited this house. The estate was actually left to him by his fourth cousin. So surprise to everyone, I think, that it was being left to him. He was actually based at the Jamaica plantations at the time. So he inherited, but part of the conditions of inheriting was that he changed his name to Doughty. It was actually left by the Doughty family, or Dowdy it's actually pronounced, but they didn't have a male heir, so they wanted to continue the family's name. Hence, a condition was that he changed his name to Dowdy. And of course, Dowdy was originally the name of the island, Perkins Island now, so that's where it gets its name from. Later on, Edward became the 9th Baron of Tichborne, so he effectively inherited the whole Alresford estate and was therefore going to have to move away from here and move into the family seat, at which time it was decided that the best option for this house was that the whole estate here be sold. So everyone agreed to that, apart from one, and that was Roger Tichborne. Roger Tichborne would have been next to inherit this property, but he was underage at the time, so was unable to agree or disagree. So it was held up until he was of an age when he could sign the agreement, at which time he refused to sign it because he was quite attached to this house and he didn't want it to be sold. So I'm not quite sure how it works, but basically he was banned from the estate and banned by the family from ever setting foot in the estate again. So he headed off to South America, at which time he disappeared, presumed drowned. They assumed that the ship had gone down and that he drowned on his way to South America. Now his mother refused to accept that. She didn't believe it. So she advertised for news. She had heard somehow rumours that he'd made it to Australia. So she advertised for news, at which point a man came forward claiming to be Roger. So I'm not quite sure how he wasn't recognised or whether there was any doubt, or I don't understand that bit. But apparently the whole family accepted him, except one who didn't agree and didn't think this was the right man. He didn't think this was Roger. So the upshot was it had to go through the courts. There was a long court case which lasted 188 court days, which is a long case. And the upshot of that was that it was decided that this man was a fraud and he wasn't Roger at all, and he was actually sent to prison. So that's a long, convoluted story in the history of this house. So eventually this house was sold, and in the end it came into the hands of the Llewellyn family. They were the last private family to live here. They bought it in 1901 and stayed here until 1957. It was the Llewellyn family that actually donated the house to the local authority. So it came into the hands of Poole Borough Council, who were unable to open it to the public at the time because access was not easy. There was a bypass, Upton bypass, needed to be built really before it was accessible, could be made accessible to the general public. So in fact that was about 19 years later, eventually, 1976. This house was actually open to the general public, and yes, public amenity, and the house itself gets used for all kinds of things. They have craft fairs and various things go on in the house, and the grounds, of course, famous for music evenings. In fact, you can hear it for miles around when it's the noisy kind of music. But yeah, so it's been an asset of the borough since then. So unfortunately, I can't film properly because there's work going on here. As you can see, the pillars, you can see two pillars there in the doorway, but the rest of it is boarded up. They have very kindly painted a picture of the pillars on it for us. So behind this, well, it's actually a photograph of the pillars. There are actual pillars. I'm not quite sure. No, doesn't say. I'm not quite sure what's going on in there because that's been like that for considerable time. The boxing in of these, I assume there is some kind of building preservation work going on or something. Well, that's a shame. I was hoping to go inside and film the inside of the house, but unfortunately it is not open. It's basically private functions, and it's open, the house, the inside of the house is open just one Sunday a month. I hadn't realised that. Never mind. So this is the front lawn, I guess, and quite waterlogged front lawn as well, if I might say so. Well, we've got to leave the house now, Upton House and Upton Country Park, and start heading off across country. Look at that sunshine over there. Absolutely beautiful spring-like day. It's a real blessing after so much cloud. Well, temporarily I've got to run the gamut of roadworks. They're improving the cycle lanes and access road. So I've got to find my way through this melee of works and fencing. Well, this has progressed since I was here last. Got a nice new path to walk on. So we made it through the gamut of roadworks, and now I'm heading out onto open heathland again, and mud. Right. Now this is where I need my walking pole, but sadly, because it was a shorter and flatter walk, I didn't bring it. Oh well, it's fine. Mud is soft, so if you fall into it, no problem. Nice bit of light coming through those trees. So now what we have here is a Roman road. It actually goes through Upton Country Park and across Upton Heath. So this is the Roman road that would have gone from Hamworthy, Newquay, I think kind of Newquay area, which is just west of the main Poole Quay. And that would have at one time been known, I believe, as Moriconium. That's favourite view, I think. There are others who think it was Noviomagus, but I think Moriconium's the main name for Hamworthy. People think it was a main supply base and key port, if you like, from Vespasian's days back in 43 AD. So Vespasian invaded Dorset and he built the Roman road, and his troops would have come up this way across this heathland on a Roman road that would have taken him to Lake Fort near Wimborne, and then on to Badbury Rings. And I've filmed obviously at Badbury Rings, and I've filmed the Roman road at that end, dead straight. So, have you worked out yet what the two main differences are with this video and my previous ones? It may be not obvious. It depends on how technical you are, maybe. Is that the right word? Probably not. I'll tell you in a bit. I think one should be obvious, and probably one less so, maybe. Being mysterious. So, I have decided I'm not going to go up the Roman road after all. I'm actually cutting across the heath itself, and I'm going to pick up the old railway line. But this is Upton Heath. Now the Roman road basically skirts along the edge of the heath, but I've decided I'm going to go across the middle of the heath, and we'll pick up a railway line in a minute, disused railway line. It's an absolutely glorious day. It literally feels like spring. And there's signs of spring as well. I've seen butterflies. I've seen 2 brimstones. Those wonderful bright yellow ray of sunshine butterflies that come out in spring. And several others. Last night I noticed that there were bats flying overhead in the garden, and the final thing I think that confirms it's spring is that my tortoises have woken up. So they've been hibernating, as they do, in the garage, and they are now awake. Which is early, actually. Time was, when I first had tortoises, that they actually wouldn't wake up until April, believe it or not, because I well remember that usually with lawn feed and weed, which I used to put down every year on my lawn, donkey's years ago this was, early married kind of days, but the earliest you can put that on is April, or is it the latest? Anyway, you can put that on in April. I remember I used to be able to weed and feed my lawn before the tortoises woke up and came out to feed, and that wouldn't happen now. Obviously I can't put weed and feed down on grass when the tortoises are feeding on it, because they eat the grass, they graze. So I definitely couldn't do it now. They're awake far too early. But this is a lovely bit of the walk, I think. Well, we've got pylons, unfortunately, going across the middle of the heath, but I love this creamy yellow grass, the dead ferns, wonderful warm tones of the foreground against that phenomenal blue sky today. It's just an absolute treat. But it does get boggy here, hence the boardwalks, of course. And we have conservation grazing here as well, to keep the heath in check, because this is Dorset Wildlife Trust Nature Reserve. I can see one of them up in front of me. So at the moment we've got ponies grazing. Hello. I could do with you. You could carry my rucksack, be my Sherpa, give me a ride up the hills. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? I've thought about that before. Or maybe a St. Bernard. I've got a St. Bernard dog. He could carry my rucksack. And here we are on the railway line. So that way would have gone down to Hamworthy. And that way would have gone up to Broadstone. And down here is a nice big lake, which was, of course, at one time a quarry. Clay, sand, probably clay, I think. I'm not absolutely certain. Now a little wildlife sanctuary. And beautiful it is. Oh, that was slippery. Methinks that looks like clay. Which is probably what came out of there. You know what? Where there's a clay pit, there was probably a brickworks. Because back in the day, they used to make the bricks near the source of the raw materials, unlike today, of course. Oh. This looks tricky without my stick. So as you know, I have a problem with wind. Not that kind of wind, the kind of wind that's blowing around in the atmosphere, that's constantly getting in the way of my microphone to the extent where on some of my videos you can't actually hear what I'm saying because the wind is so bad it's wiping me out. Well, I now have a button microphone. One of these, so that the wind noise hopefully will be cancelled out, and this being near me at all times will enable you to hear me and get a better sound quality than I have done in the past. So that's the first thing, and if you will have noticed that it's not particularly windy today. The other thing is that I've got another camera which I think is going to be a lot better than the GoPro that I was using. I am going to keep the GoPro because it's waterproof and you can put it underwater even, as you know if you've been watching my videos. So I'm going to keep that one as well. but hopefully this is the camera that I will be using from now on, and it focuses, whereas the GoPro is fixed focus. So this, I think, is going to be a better setup, and I hope will give a better experience to the viewer, i.e. you. So those are the two things that are different. Now you probably, I think, could have gathered about the microphone. Not sure you gather about the quality of the video. That might be less obvious without knowing. Anyway, that's my new toys. This is the first time I've filmed with this setup, so I'm getting used to it, but hopefully it's coming across okay. Right, we're underway again. We are going to follow the railway line for a little while now. So we're on an embankment. If it weren't for the fact that we got trees on either side, we would have some good views across the Heath. It's quite boggy on this Heath, as you can see. Always intrigues me, this part. It is so boggy in here. Waterlogged down the bottom there. So I've just come off the railway line momentarily. Well, look at the light on that tree. Amazing green colours, don't you just love moss and lichen? Colours, I think, are just amazing. Look at the light and the colours in here. It's beautiful. That's well muddy and clayey. It's a bit of a playground, this is. More of the clay pits. Great cycle track. Beautiful open heathland. Well, that was a bit of a detour, that was. Let's explore the clay pits. We're back to the railway line. And this, of course, is an old line side hut. I don't know if the door's open. Oh yeah, seems to be. That's me in my line side hut. interesting, isn't it? We started off the video with a railway causeway built across Holmes Bay, and we're ending the video with a railway causeway built across Upton Heath. So we've gone from causeway to causeway, railway to railway, and around the Holmes Bay Harbour shore as well. And down the bottom there is our Roman road again. So I've come down and joined the Roman road again, and we'll walk with legionaries towards Badbury Rings. Well, we're getting on towards the end of the walk now, so I'm going to sign the video off at this point. I'm not actually back at the car yet. I need to do a little bit more walking, but we've done the interesting bit. It'll be more kind of road walking-y kind of bits, I think. Yeah, it's been an absolutely awesome day. Really spring-like, and it kind of feels almost like the first day of spring. It's been fantastic and so warm. So yeah, it's been an amazing day. I couldn't actually put the drone up high, which is a shame, because I hadn't realised that my controller is not charged up. I thought it was fully charged, but obviously not. Never mind, I was able to use it on the auto functions, but not with the controller, so I couldn't put it up high like I wanted to. I was going to film Upton House from high up with the harbour behind, show its view. Never mind, next time. So yeah, it's been fantastic. So don't forget, if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, put them in the comments box below, and I will add them to the list, and I'll do a questions and answer session and do my best to answer all the questions you have. So yeah, it's been a great day. So I think the camera and microphone seem to have worked well. I hope that's true from a viewing perspective, but I'll find out when I get home and put it in the computer. So yes, thanks so much for coming with me. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it interesting. Another different view of Poole Harbour and Holmes Bay. So I hope you found it interesting. I've absolutely loved it, as always. But for now, this is me, the Dorset Rambler, saying, until next time.